going to Istanbul, do some exploring for a couple days. Then hopefully the stainless steel and the sail guy will have made their measurements. By the time we get back, we get the work started and get back on the road again, sailing and exploring. In this episode, we're headed to Istanbul. Istanbul is the largest city in Turkey and is split between two continents, both Asia and Europe. The city's origins begin around the 7th century BC, when it was settled by the Greeks. Eventually, the city served as the imperial capital to the Romans, as Constantinople. In 1930, its name was officially changed to Istanbul. Today, Istanbul is one of the top 10 most visited cities in the world. Previously, we introduced you to one of the most generous men in Turkey, Muhammed. He offered to drive us to the airport so we didn't have to take the bus. Muhammed's generosity saved us an hour in travel time to the Antalya airport. Tickets from the Antalya airport to Istanbul were so cheap that we just couldn't pass up this opportunity.
We're in Istanbul.
What?
Istanbul.
Istanbul, not Constantinople, Istanbul. So we're gonna go eat some breakfast, and if you just little side note, if you were looking for a custom pair of shoes, this block we're in is like, I went to the ATM and every business, I thought it was weird, they had just soles at the shoe stores, but what they are is they're shoe manufacturers here, and they were boxing stuff up first thing this morning, sending shipments out, and it was pretty cool looking. So yeah, so here's a view, little park across from the hotel, and we're going to a little cafe to get breakfast, the Blue Bottle Café. After breakfast, we headed to the Para Modern Art Museum, where there was also an exhibit on ancient scales and weights. I thought this was pretty cool, and it seemed like the kids enjoyed it too. So our hotel owner is actually giving us personal directions to the Grand Bazaar. So he's been so helpful. I got a story I'll share with you later about the phone. Zaman, this is the guy's name, very helpful. He's been so kind, true good person. So straight up?
Yes. Finished in the Grand Bazaar.
Okay.
Minutes.
All right, thank you. Whew. We've got the hill climb of the century ahead. So here's the story I wanted to share with you. So we hop in a taxi that the hotel owner stops for us, hails for us, and we go to the museum just across the river. Like a 20-minute ride. It's a pretty good drive, but guy charges us 50 bucks, and I'm like, oh wow, everything's really expensive in Turkey. His meter wasn't working, of course, so I get back, I tell the hotel owner, because I left my phone in his car accidentally, and luckily somebody in the car picked up the phone when I was calling WhatsApp, answered the phone, and communicated with us and gave us the license plate of the taxi car and everything, and the number of the taxi driver, and I told the hotel owner, and boy, he was so upset that this guy charged, because I guess the max they can charge is 70 lira for a ride around town. So he had words with them, and now he's gonna wait at the hotel till the guy brings our phone back. So it was just beautiful finding good people, you know, that want to do what's right and be nice to people and kind. And incidentally, while I'm standing there, a poor lady comes in trying to sell socks and stuff, and the hotel owner looks at her and says something in Turkish or Arabic and just hands her some money and tells her to leave, gives her a blessing. And it was just beautiful to see that there's so many good people left in the world. So we're walking up the hill of death, because we can't breathe. And we're going to the Grand Bazaar. The Grand Bazaar, originally constructed on a smaller scale in the 15th century, the Grand Bazaar is one of the largest and oldest covered markets in the world, with over 60 covered streets and more than 3,000 shops on a total area of almost 420,000 square feet. Welcome to the Grand Bazaar in Istanbul, Turkey. We found the bazaar to be a labyrinth of wonderful colors, sounds, and smells. So we don't have our GPS phone because that's the phone that the taxi driver was bringing back to the hotel. So now we're playing a game called Getting Lost in the Grand Bazaar. So it's like a labyrinth, Pan's Labyrinth. Which way?
We can go this way. That way.
That way? Okay. So that big wall, this Svenden wall, was the Hippodrome was a huge racetrack that I think one of the emperors, late Roman emperors, built. And because the terrain was hilly, they had to build up one end of it to make that long flat track. And so that huge wall, 70, 80 feet high, was a retaining wall, but then it had corridors and arches in it that would lead people around and up to the spectator section of the Hippodrome. Hippodrome. Sounds like they should have been racing hippos in there, or flying hippos, hippodrome. So we're walking up to the palace, Grand Palace. We're going to pass the Blue Mosque and the Hagia Sophia. And I'm going to hit the Archaeological Museum, and whatever kids want to come with me. And Jen's going to take the remaining kids to the palace to look how the sheiks and sultans used to live in splendor. Then we were off to the Ancient Orient and Archaeological Museums, where there were thousands of artifacts from Mesopotamia, Egypt, Iran, and Anatolia. This experience was a fascinating journey, covering almost 5,000 years. A time of Sennacherib, bragging about destroying his enemies and building things for the gods and rebuilding Nineveh, so the ancient city of Nineveh. So in the museum yesterday, we saw that there were small duck weights that distinguished shekel and all those standardized weights. This one from Babylon, a 13th century BC, was a weight. Hey, naked slave boy, fill my cup. Okay, mind blown. I never knew this museum was so extensive. You know, I think of the British museums and all the stuff they, I don't call it looted, but borrowed, I guess, removed from its original location, put on the British Museum, but the collections here are just incredibly intense and encompassing eons. And it's such a beautiful collection, displayed so wonderfully. It's so wonderful. In each section of the museum, they have these beautiful depictions of what the life would have been like going on when they're creating these beautiful artifacts. And so that's a very nice addition, kind of period piece to show what everything looked like in its context. Third century crown. Look at that incredible detail. New coffins and sarcophagi. 300 BC. Beautiful, beautiful detail. This one obviously was not exposed to the elements. (300 BC). Big sarcophagi. Look at that, some of the original pigmentation. Wow. No, it's kind of a whirlwind. I think that little walk through the museum should be a video in itself, but there's just so much to see here in Istanbul. There's even stuff out here in the park. Sarcophagi, incredibly sized, beautiful tiled mosaic buildings. On the way out of the archaeological museum, we're gonna walk through the little park where they're displaying some neat stuff. We also visited the Blue Mosque, which is officially called the Sultan Ahmet Mosque. This gigantic mosque was constructed in 1610 on the site of the palaces of previous Byzantine emperors and contains the tomb of its namesake. Its interior is lined with 200 stained glass windows and over 20,000 handmade ceramic tiles which illustrate 50 different tulip designs. Unfortunately, the mosque was being restored, so not all of its splendor could be seen. The Hagia Sophia, originally a Greek Orthodox church, originally built by the Roman Emperor Justinian I as a cathedral in 535 AD, at that time it was the world's largest interior space. After the fall of Constantinople to the Turks, it was converted into a mosque with the faces of angels painted over and Christian crosses incorporated into beautiful artistic designs. This beautifully huge creation attracts over 4 million visitors each year. We're up early this morning, 4:30. We're catching the shuttle to the airport. We're just waiting for the girls to get ready. Maddie's our early bird. Alright, we're at the airport at Istanbul, headed back to Finiki. Here we are maintaining our social distancing until we get crammed to an airplane. And we're all like within half a foot of each other.
Video now?
Anytime you're welcome, see you. You know where I am.
Yes, thank you so much.
My pleasure, see you. Huh?
All right.